Hello, everybody. Happy Friday, everybody. It's time for Cub Chat Live. My name is Aaron. I'm joined today by a very special guest, Mr. Michael Ramsey. He's the Senior Vice President of Marketing and Communications at the organization formerly known as Boy Scouts of America. Michael, how are you doing today?
I'm fantastic, Aaron. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Cub Chat Live is always a good day. The topic of today's show is marketing, how to market your unit, the advantages of marketing, all of the cool things like that. We've talked about this topic before, and we're going to retouch on some of those best practices and things like that. But there is one thing that has changed since we last talked about this topic, and that's why we brought in the big guns today, Michael, to address this issue. The last time we did this show, we were part of an organization called Boy Scouts of America. We're now part of an organization called Scouting America. Michael, maybe just as we get started, there might be some folks here who aren't really familiar with all that. Why the name change, first of all? What's the significance of it? What does it mean? And then as we go from there, we'll talk about maybe how, volunteers can leverage the name change to their advantage, right?
Absolutely. Well, listen, hey, thanks for the invite. Favorite show. It's awesome with the work that you guys do on the show. So you may have seen us in the news over the past 4 or 5, 6 weeks. Officially on May 7th, the national organization made the announcement at their national annual meeting in Orlando that the Boy Scouts of America was shifting the name to Scouting America. Actually, it was one of the biggest news stories that has broken in scouting history. At 19 billion media impressions, it was covered in almost 9,000 different media outlets around the planet, including like Christchurch, New Zealand picked up the story. It's really crazy. But the question is why? Well, you may know, of course, you know, Aaron, that we welcomed girls into Cub Scouts and then Scouts BSA over 5 years ago. And since that time, we have 178,000 plus girls in Cub Scouts and Scouts BSA and venturing and Z Scouting and exploring. It's just phenomenal. Over 6,000 young women have earned the rank of Eagle Scout already, which is just phenomenal. But the reality is we've had girls in scouting programs since 1969. And then, of course, the venturing program launched, which was also had girls in the program. But yet here we were with the name boy, over the door as people walk through. And so we were hearing more and more from young women in the program that, maybe that was a barrier. That certainly people with daughters who used to come to the Cub Scout meetings or maybe tagged along at the Scout meetings, at the Cub Scout meetings and the troop meetings, that they were kind of, they kind of tag alongs. Of course, they were going to join because maybe their dad was a scout leader or their brothers were in scouts. They were probably going to join anyway because they knew and loved scouting and had grown up with it. But what we were hearing more and more was that there were girls who might join, but they really weren't sure it was for them because it still said boy in the name. So we had the organization had made a step towards that with Scouts BSA back when that rebranded or renamed. We really hadn't kind of gone all the way. So this was a message from the National Executive Board that we were really welcoming girls and boys into the program fully. So, the other thing we've heard too, Aaron, is, we've actually been running focus groups now for several months across the country. And one of the things we'd also heard was that the general public, even though girls have been being invited into Cub Scouts and Scouts BSA now for over 5 years, that youth and families just weren't hearing the news. They didn't know that girls were welcome to join Cub Scouts specifically or Scouts BSA. So this is also an opportunity to leverage the name change to let people know that, hey, come join Scouting America, come join the adventure, come join the fun. So with the big media push around that, that's part of our attempt to spread the great word.
That is awesome. I want to give a quick shout out. We got a lot of folks watching. Michael, Aaron's is a volunteer from PAC 3130 in Greenville. Love the name, Aaron, like that a lot. Aaron has done something interesting. She has tagged a friend, and that's something we encourage you all to do. Tag a friend in the comments who you think might enjoy watching the show today. You've just missed the first few minutes. It's no big deal. This show will live here on when we're done. You can go back and watch the first 5 minutes again. Happy birthday to Rob, who's right down the street from me. What's up, Anna? Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate it. Osage Scout Mom is watching from PAC 449 in St. Clair, Missouri, and Scouts BSA Troop 82. We have a lot of folks who watch who are volunteers in both Cub Scout PACs and Scouts BSA troops, which we love. Speaking of that, Rich from PAC 75 and Troop 27 Girls in Edwardsville, Illinois. Jeremy, good to see you again, sir. Troop 24 in Centersville, Georgia. Good to see you, Carrie from the Chickasaw Council. Everyone, find a home from resident camp. Let us know how it was, Carrie. I bet it was super fun. My man Ethan, my son's name is Ethan, so it's good to see somebody named Ethan on from Pac 8 in Wilson, North Carolina. And DJ, good to see you again. Irving, Texas, right down the street, Michael, from us. Our topic today, again, guys, is marketing, and specifically marketing your Cub Scout pack. Michael used a term that I feel like I've heard a little bit more in the last few years than I had heard before, and that is barrier to join. Right, we're trying to remove these barriers. One of which might be the organization had boy in the name. Another barrier very well could be that there are people in the neighborhood right now who don't know that there's a Cub Scout pack meeting every week at the church right down the road or the elementary school, right? And it's a challenge to get the word out. So that's kind of what we're talking about today. When it comes to the name change, Michael, do we have any hard and steadfast rules now as Cub Scout packs out there start reaching out to families who are not members, who don't know the difference between Boy Scouts of America and Scouting America? What are the rules when it comes to referring to the organization? Because there's some kind of language that may be a little bit confusing to some folks. It doesn't go into effect until February 25. Well, it's only June 24. You know, what's our message to folks there? What kind of words should they be using?
That's a bunch of great questions wrapped up in that. Yeah, so the name change is because there's a lot to unpack here, and it's an exciting topic. The name change isn't official until February 8th of 2025, which happens to be Scouting's anniversary birthday. So we'll be celebrating that as well as Scouting's anniversary next year. Some people have asked, well, why don't you just make the change on May 7th? Well, we want to make sure that we give units and councils and everyone a chance to make the transition, whether it's everything from the stickers on your trailer to letterhead and business cards and local council offices. Give people plenty of time to make those kinds of changes and adjust. Of course, there's literature that needs to be updated, all that kind of good stuff. What we've told councils is, and you should take your lead from your local council, is that you can begin to use the name immediately. In fact, in the weeks following the national annual meeting, and actually just about every day, I get an email from a council that says, hey, we just had a board meeting or we just had a committee meeting and we're in. We want to start using the marks and logos, which is great. Councils are more than welcome to start doing that. That's no problem at all. Hey, to your point about the unit down the street, we have, as I mentioned, I've sat through myself personally 10 different focus groups, and this was with people with elementary school age kids who are not scouting people, not us yet, and also parents of scout age youth, again, not scout people, but people that are kind of part of who we want to join the program. And what we've heard consistently from coast to coast is they know about scouting, but nobody's ever asked them to join. And they may or may not be seeing them in their local schools or in the communities. You made the point that they may be meeting down the street, but sometimes the old joke is we meet in the church basement on Monday night, and nobody knows we're around. I think that's a big opportunity for us, is to reach out, whether it's flyers in schools or, it's that little camping display you might do in front of the elementary school, those kinds of things, just so that people see us and know there's an opportunity to join. What we hear from our research and from our focus groups is that the number one way people hear about us is usually word of mouth. Number two, they see us in the community, or they probably get a flyer at school or something like that. But I think visibility is a huge opportunity for us. What we hear is that they don't see us, but they love scouting. They love the idea of outdoor adventure and fun and family and friends and all that kind of stuff. They really want their kids involved in the program, but they've never been asked.
Right. And that's why it comes back to marketing. And that's why we do a couple of Cub Chat Lives every year on the topic. If you watched our last Cub Chat Live, you might be thinking, why are you talking about marketing? And well, it's kind of important. It's kind of a big deal. And we've got a lot of folks watching and commenting. Guys, we've got another 20-25 minutes or so with Michael here. Feel free to chime in with your questions. I want to make sure, shout out to Anna, who's watching from, I think that's, so MI is Michigan, not Mississippi, right? I'm sorry, I don't know my state abbreviations. I know that Richard, I know SC is South Carolina, Eugene from Pennsylvania. Carrie says summer camp was hot, but great, very, very cool. Fred's watching from the Chippewa District 3 Fires Council. Shout out to Richard, who's coming to us from Kentucky. We've got a lot of folks watching. Appreciate you all signing up and joining very, very much. Okay, so yeah, Michael, when we talk about marketing your Cub Scout pack, what do we know works? There's a lot of ways to do it, and you mentioned a few ways: handing out flyers. We're going to talk a little bit about social media. Even
Yeah.
just wearing a Cub Scout shirt is a way
Yeah. Sure.
of
Your
marketing,
neckerchief.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So just in general, talk about what do we know about kind of what works and best practices of marketing your Cub Scout pack in your community.
Well, I'll tell you what, visibility is just huge. And this comes out of focus groups and it comes out of research. We do joining studies every year, and we ask people, how'd you hear about us? How did you know that scouting was available in your community? And number one is visibility. I'm sorry, word of mouth is number one, visibility is number two. And then of course flyers are one of the main tools. It really is about being visible. I think finding those opportunities, whether it's the flag ceremony at the school program, or maybe a PTA meeting, if you have access to those kinds of things. Again, some places there's school access issues. You may not have access to schools for whatever reason, but sometimes they'll let you do a little camping display in their front yard, or maybe even allow your Cub Scouts to go raise the flag in the morning. Anything you can do to be visible and be seen in the community. Heck, even selling popcorn in front of the local Home Depot or Lowe's or Walmart, wherever you're out there, just being prepared to talk about the fun and excitement that being part of the scouting community offers. That's the other thing we hear from families about Cub Scouting, is that really as a community, you're really building your own network of people. And a lot of that comes from the people that your daughters and your sons know in their classroom. So it really is about visibility and then asking.
Yeah, I think that one of the messages that I'd like to get across today, if we get nothing else across, it's that being visible in your community is huge, and it also can be done within the program and the things that you're
Yeah.
already doing. Most likely, Ethan chimes in the comments, when our pack was selling popcorn around our area, we had so many families stop by not knowing scouting was still around, right? And how many
Yeah.
times that's happened to me before? Yeah. Oh, Cub Scouts, wow, that's cool. Where, yeah, we meet at the church that you belong to or whatever, right? Like, it's
Right.
that happens so often. That's so cool. I think we have a fancy word for that, maybe called passive marketing or something weird like that. But basically, I think what we're talking about, Michael, is anytime you fundraising, service projects, participating in flag ceremonies, participating in parades, there's all kinds of things.
Oh,
Being present in your town square, 4th of July is coming up, right? Maybe you have an event or things like that, and wearing a t-shirt and just letting people see you. Am I right about that, Michael?
absolutely. Someone sent me a photo last week, and it was a picture. They were telling us about their plans to march in their 4th of July parade this year, and they said, "Hey, we had a great time. It was great programming. It was great fun because the scouts got to carry the flags, and they had a little banner they had made. It was really great. But just being visible, right? I mean, that's what we do, is setting the example for civic pride and respect for our country, and patriotism. And boy, this is 4th of July is the perfect opportunity to lead that parade. And yeah, people will say, I didn't know scouting was even in the community. Say, yeah, join us on our next family camp out, or whatever, come to our next den meeting. Tell them about the Pinewood Derby cars. Isn't it funny what a conversation starter Pinewood Derby cars are? Even if someone never went all the way to Eagle Scout or into Scouts BSA, they may have built a Pinewood Derby car. And if they're like me, you probably still have it under your bed somewhere. People love Pinewood Derby. It's a great conversation starter. I was a Cub Scout. You were? Do you still have your car? Hey, come down and join us. We have a great pack. It's a great conversation starter.
Yeah, and what I really love about that, Michael, is wearing your a mutual friend of ours, Eric, who is
Yeah,
not only a very, very talented designer, the art director for
it's
Scout Life
great.
magazine, also a dedicated Cub Scout and now Scouts BSA volunteer because his kids are getting older. I think it was him whose Cub Scout pack has a shirt that says "Ask me how to join Scouting," and they wear
Yeah,
that out. And because hey, nobody likes to try to sell things to strangers, right? It's weird to approach a stranger and try to sell them popcorn, scouting, whatever it is. But when you're out there in your community with a shirt that basically says, "Hey, come say hi," people come up and are like you said, "Oh, I didn't know Cub Scouting was around," or "How do I join?" I think I've seen some shirts that have QR codes that people can scan that take them to the website where they can join. Yeah, let's look at Anna's comment. Every Tuesday, I
Look
wear my
at
pack hoodie and talk a lot about the pack of the troop and the 4th of July parade, Thanksgiving parade. Very, very cool. Aaron wears her
that. Aaron,
class every
look at
Thursday
that.
this summer to work. That's a great idea right there. Yeah, exactly. And you know, you don't have to bother people, right? But if they're interested, if they're curious, they might ask you questions. We had a youth join our pack at a car wash fundraiser. Very cool, Christine. Yeah, I love hearing things like that. Um, we call that passive recruiting. What I call it is just easy recruiting. It's just being out in the public doing things that you're probably doing anyway, but just kind of being open and prepared to talk to folks, answer questions. They probably have questions. You guys still exist? I thought you were all girls now. I thought blah, 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 whatever, you know, just being able to answer those kind of questions.
No,
Very,
that's
very
great.
cool.
You know, the other interesting thing, Aaron, is that we've done some research recently. It's called the Scouting Edge Study. You can find that on scouting.org if you dig around. But one of the neat insights about it is that we asked people who were alumni, scouting people, about what they believed about how scouting impacts the lives of young people. And we asked the same questions to people that were not scouting alumni, they hadn't been scouts and they weren't leaders and they weren't Eagle Scouts. So we had two different groups. We asked them, for instance, does scouting develop character in young people? And of course, us scouting people said, of course, like 95% either agreed or strongly believed that scouting builds character in young people. What was really interesting is that if you look at the numbers for people who are not scouting alumni, that either weren't scouts and weren't leaders, they don't know what we do in a troop meeting on Tuesday night or a pack meeting, also strongly agreed, like 86% said, yeah, we believe scouting develops character in young people. We asked a question that said, does scouting develop respect in young people, the ability to be respectful? And of course, us, I think it's like 92% said, of course, scouting helps build respect in young people. Even people who are not us, that don't know what happens in scouting, believe that scouting develops respect in young people. It's just amazing how much people love the scouting program, even if they've never been involved. So when you wear that hoodie out in public or that T-shirt with the gold Cub Scout logo on it, people are going to come up and talk to you. And usually it's going to be, wow, I was a Cub Scout, or my dad was a Cub Scout. It's a great opportunity to have a conversation about, you should come down and visit our pack meeting, right? I mean,
it's so great to hear that. It's so great to hear that, because you know what you might read in the media recently, you might not realize that most folks have a positive impression of the benefits of scouting. They think it is a beneficial program. So it's really just up to us. It comes back to marketing to let them know, hey, there's a unit in your neighborhood where you can meet right down the street. It's not very far, and they're flexible with your schedule and all these things like that. That's really the message we try to need to get out, I think. Michael, I do want to address real quick. It's almost July. Just in a couple of more months for some folks, probably maybe 5 or 6 weeks more summer vacation. Hard to believe. And then school will be starting again. And there's a thing that we've had in Scouts forever called, some people call it School Night for Scouting. Some people call it Join Nights. We still have those. Those are still things. Those are still very effective things. Like you said, Michael, your access to your school might vary. I say definitely talk with your local principal of your school, talk with your district and your council to see if they may have already established some sort of recommended way to communicate with your school. But let's just talk about the old-fashioned, real quick, joint scouting nights. There's a thing called the BSA Brand Center. We could do a whole show on that. In fact,
absolutely.
We have done that. You can print flyers out there. Michael, if people have flyers from last year that still say Boy Scouts of America, do they need to set those on fire? What's our advice for those?
Don't set them on fire. No. Hey, so great question, because people have asked, oh, Scouting America, I've got this stuff that has the old BSA logo on it, by the way, which is still good until February 8th of 2025. Yep. So a Scout is thrifty. It's okay. If you have something that says BSA on it, it's okay. You feel free to continue to use it. If you run out of them, well, then your council will probably update that with the updated Scouting America marks and logos, which, thanks for the softball, you can find on the Brand Center. Used to be called the BSA Brand Center. Now it's the Scouting America Brand Center. But hopefully you all get, thank you, Brian, for dropping the URL up there. If you get the Scouting Wire every week and read it from cover to cover, like you probably should, there's a link at the top that will take you right to the Brand Center. And so there are all kinds of cards in there that you can click on, artwork for recruiting, Scouts BSA, each one of the programs, but there's a Scouting America link. So you can click into that, and there's some great videos up there. We're adding materials every day. Certainly the logos are there, all that kind of good stuff. But yeah, no, don't throw anything away. Don't throw it in the fireplace because it's summertime and it's too hot. But yeah, as it comes time to update those materials, certainly use the Scouting America logo, so we're all very consistent with the brand. But yeah, don't go throw that stuff away. And again, by the way, it's still good until February 8th of 2025. But it's exciting, Aaron. I think we should really lean in and leverage Scouting America. I saw a video last week from a council that had used the name change as an opportunity to go talk to the local media, local television news, and say, hey, we're changing our name. We've got 178,000 girls in the program, and we're inviting all kids to, come to day camp and join scouting and all those kinds of messages. It was an opportunity to reach out and talk to media. And maybe they wouldn't have talked to us before, but because there's a little bit of a news hook to it, they were more than excited to have this program had Cub Scouts and Scouts and Scouts on the news with the anchor. And we're just kind of chit-chatting with a leader about the change and what it meant for them locally. So I do that locally too. It's an opportunity to have a conversation where you may not have found a way to have a conversation before.
I want to point out a nice comment from Ethan, who says, meet them where they are, have recruiting nights at various places around the community. And I think that's a really cool idea. You don't have to be limited to recruiting only at your elementary school or the site of your chartered organization. There's nothing wrong with reaching out to folks and saying, hey, can I set up a little booth? Can I stand in the corner with my t-shirt on at any sort of community event or something like that? Meet them where they are. I think that says it all. I also want to share an interesting comment from Anna. Sorry, Anna. Anna says, for eight years, I looked for a pack for almost 3 months before I found the person I needed to get a hold of. Now we are fixing that to make sure that everybody knows how to get a hold of them. Let's talk about that real quick, Michael. What do Cub Scout units need to do, to make sure they can be found? There's a thing called beascout.org. I think we still promote that, right? Can we talk about that real quick?
Absolutely. Be a Scout is great. Be a Scout is, so if you go to just type in beascout.org, you can find a link to it at the top of the page of scouting.org. If you haven't found it yet, you should go play with it. It is basically it's a unit locator. You put in Cub Scouts, put in your zip code. It'll bring up all of the units that are registered in that specific geographic area, and you can dial in and dial out and has information. Here's the trick. The unit needs to update and maintain that information. So, Aaron, we'll stumble across units sometimes that the pin has been updated like 5 years ago and nobody's touched it. Now the unit's fine, it's just one more thing they've got to deal with, and you can get a chance to go update it. I would go look at that information, because you'll have to tell it. You may be Pack 374 chartered to Stonegate Elementary School, but maybe you meet at another location. You might need to go update the meeting location, maybe the contact information for the unit leaders. Who should they call if they're interested? It's really important that we update that, because that URL is out there nationwide. So if people are looking for you and the information's out of date, you probably got to tune that stuff up too. While you're in there, you can also, in the dashboard that the unit leader can get to, there's also a QR code. If online registration is turned on in your council for your unit, it's a QR code specific to that unit that you could snap with your phone, and you can actually sign up online to your unit using the phone. So super, super important to keep that stuff updated.
Great comment from Carrie, who says, I am encouraging Scout units to contact middle schools for starting school nights
100%.
there. You don't have to limit your school night to scouting to an elementary school. That's great, Carrie.
That is a fantastic point. I want to linger on that for a second, Carrie, because that is a super important point. I've talked to councils before and unit leaders, and I've asked the question, are you doing flyers in middle schools? Yes. Elementary schools? Yes, we are. Are you doing them in middle schools? And you can see them kind of pause and say, can we do that? Well, obviously you should talk to your council and your district executive in your district, but yeah, why not? Right? It's a great opportunity, especially if you've got, Cub Scouts that maybe are about to, they missed the Cub Scout window and they were maybe about to go into Scouts BSA. I would absolutely go after middle schools. It's a huge opportunity. Listen, everybody loves a good outdoor program and wants to go camping. Go for it.
Absolutely. I want to point out another what I think is a very effective recruiting tool. Alex points it out. This is very old-fashioned. The old-fashioned yard sign, Michael.
100%.
Alex is coming to us from Pac 510 in Gladstone, Oregon. We had scouts join because they saw a yard sign inviting them to come check out our pack. Super easy. Have all your scouts put up yard signs at home and also near where you meet. I mean, it sounds so old-fashioned, Michael, but I think there's probably people I can look across out this window right here and I see houses, and I bet there's young moms and young dads in those houses who are taking their kids for walks, and it's probably crossed their minds. You know what I mean? Maybe I need to get my kid involved with Cub Scouts. They don't even know what beascout.org is, right? But imagine if they see a yard sign in front of a house right there in their neighborhood with a pack number and a phone number to call or a website or whatever. That's a great recruiting tool.
It's
Michael, your thoughts? Yeah.
Yeah, all scouting is local, right?
Right.
And how do you know that there's a pack at Stonegate Elementary School? Maybe, listen, I'm a recovering Cub Master. I am a deep part of the scouting program. That's how I found the pack near me, was a yard sign in front of the school. I had no idea there was a Cub Scout pack there when my kids were Cub Scout age, but that's how we found it, with a yard sign and a phone number. And I called the phone number. It was the best conversation in the world. So, but watch out, because a year later I was the Cub Master. So yeah.
Michael and I have similar paths. I am a recovering Cub Master as well, and I started out the same way. And for me, it only took like 6 months, Michael. So I was, I guess, a little bit ahead of the curve. But hey, we have just a few more minutes with Michael Ramsey, the Senior Vice President of Marketing and Communications at Scouting America. Jen says she loves the neckerchief. Agreed, Jen.
Nice.
Hey, I do want to talk about something big that I think is relatively new. We talked about old-fashioned things like yard signs and flyers, but let's talk about social media, Michael.
Yeah.
A lot of folks are already on, Facebook, Instagram, whatever it is. Do you have any thoughts or advice on marketing your Cub Scout pack via those channels, Facebook, Instagram, whatever it is?
Absolutely. Listen, I think we've got to be on those platforms. If your pack or troop or whatever unit you have, specifically packs today, you should definitely let people know that you're doing a joint scouting night at Stonegate Elementary School, right? You should definitely post. Think about, it's a little bit like the town square a little bit. All of your friends are following you on Facebook. It's probably people that are in your son or daughter's classes at school. You want them to know that's what's going on. I think you should definitely, make a video, post a link to an event on Facebook. Hey, we're doing a joint scouting night at the library on Tuesday at 7, whatever the message is, and let people know about it. Maybe we should talk about geofencing on another webinar sometimes. But if you have an organization page for your Cub Scout pack, then you can create an event, and you can put $1 or $2. It's like advertising. You boost that post for $1 or $2, and it really expands the number of people that will see it, because you may have figured this out. Not everything you post on your Facebook page is seen by all your friends. It's actually a relatively small percentage. But if you create an event that says join scouting Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Stonegate Elementary School, and a location and date, if you put $1 behind it, literally $1 a day for a few days, a lot more people see it, like a magnitude. We've seen it work very well all across the country. So those are some more tips and tricks. But I think being present, that's where people see their information. It's on Facebook, it's on Instagram. Let people know you're doing it.
Yep. Christine just made a good point that dropped a flyer in a Facebook group. I guarantee you, there is a mom or a dad or a young parent's Facebook group in your neighborhood. And man, if you could get the keys to that thing, or just be allowed to drop in a comment, let them know about it, that could be huge. We have just a few more minutes, Michael, and I do want to address one more thing. You and I talked about this a little bit before we went live here today, in that there's probably some Cub Scout pack leaders out there who are thinking, we're kind of maxed out. We're good. Maybe we don't need to recruit any more members. On the other side, there's probably some who maybe their pack isn't maxed out, but they're doing the best they can, and growing their pack is the least of their concern, right? They're trying to figure out what they're going to do for their first den meeting in September or whenever that is.
Sure.
Can you talk a little bit to us about the benefits of marketing, just in general, of growing your pack, bringing in more families? If whether it's a pack who's feels like they're maxed out, or a pack who's the opposite of maxed out and just thinks they're fine with where they are. why is it good for Cub Scouts to market and grow, Michael?
Absolutely. What was it? Will Rogers that said the only thing wrong with the Boy Scouts is not enough of them. I think that's probably true. Listen, I was a Cub master and a den leader at the same time for years and years. Being a Cub master was the best job I ever had, bar none. It was great. But we had the same conversations in my pack. Boy, we'd love to recruit some more people, but wow, I don't know. We don't have enough leaders now. I actually had the same conversation with my pack committee chair and then a troop committee chair years later. And I said, I hear you're concerned. Here's the opportunity. If we recruit more young people into our program, guess what? Their parents, their grandparents, their dads, they're going to come along and they're going to help us with this program. So it's not going to be just us. We're going to recruit the entire family into our community here in our pack. And that's the key to success. Scouting is more fun with friends. We need to invite the whole family into the organization. And that doesn't mean we're going to sign you up to be a den leader on day one, but we should invite them in and ask them to help and bring them along. And at some point, maybe they're the den leader or they're the treasurer or whatever role. Here's an interesting piece of insight, Aaron, to that point. Again, we've done focus groups all across the country with over 250 people now. And gosh, I think it's like 10 different markets. It's crazy. But one of the questions we ask these people who are not scouting people, but they were interested in scouting, we said, would you be interested in volunteering to be a leader? And the answer was, not really sure. But then we changed the question. We said, well, would you be interested in helping? Oh, yes, they'd be interested in helping. I think volunteering sounds like a real heavy commitment, and it's not real defined about what it would be. But when you say, hey, if you join, we'd love to have you help with your son or daughter's meetings. They love that idea, and then everybody's hand goes up. So I think when we're on those recruitment nights where we're signing excited kids up and we say, and we want you to volunteer too, yeah, I think maybe change language a little bit and say, hey, we'd love it if you could help with the meeting. Fill out the application and bring them in. Start them in the shallow end of the pool before we really get them plugged into the whole operation. But to your question, absolutely, we need to recruit the entire family. It's really a family program for Cub Scouting.
Awesome, awesome. One of the things I really love about Cub Chat Live, Michael, I know you already know this, but our commenters sometimes come up with ideas that are really brilliant. And I'm like, why didn't I think of that? I want to point out real quick, Pamela, there are these things called newspapers that a lot of people might not have heard of. And, one thing that I actually used to work at a newspaper in a previous life, Michael, many years ago. One of the things that I've observed about that industry is that, obviously most people get their news online, right? Newspapers are not what they once were. We used to all get newspapers. Now we all get these. But let me just tell you guys this. Pamela points it out. Local newspapers are still a thing. There are still community newspapers. That's where the newspaper business is probably doing about as good as it can. And they want community news. They're a community newspaper. They're not interested in the presidential debate from last night. They're not interested in the Stanley Cup Finals. They're not interested in that kind of stuff. They want to know what's happening in your community. I guarantee you, they want to know if your Cub Scouts having a join night or something like that. That's exactly the kind of thing they need.
Absolutely.
A+ comment from Pamela.
Pamela.
Really appreciate that comment. We've got a lot of folks commenting with a lot of good.
Hey, let me tag on to Pamela's because sure. You're a newspaper guy. I'm a PR journalism guy. We're marketing people. Absolutely. Listen, the best thing you can do is reach out. It doesn't have to be a press release. It doesn't have to be an article. Send them a picture with a tag of, hey, this was the Cub Scouts raising the flag, whatever. To your local media outlet. And maybe it's print, maybe it's online, doesn't matter. But you're right. They're hungry for great local content. In fact, I would even say, days like Memorial Day and Labor Day and Veterans Days, those are typically slow news days. Hey, I would call my local television station or media outlet. Maybe it's a newspaper, maybe it's not. Hey, we're going to be raising a flag down at the local courthouse or Capitol building. Come down and take a great picture, and they will. I love that comment. Thanks for sharing.
That's great. Yeah,
that's really good.
Speaking of a great picture, another comment from Pamela. I'd love to see a picture of this. Pamela says what attracted them to Scouts was a display of a canoe and a tent in front of their local school during 100%. The day. That's how cool is that?
It's really great. Nice. Absolutely.
Troops. It sounds like maybe this was older kids wave to cars on the corner. I mean, how fun is that? Just letting people know that you're around. You don't have to track people down. You don't have to badger them into joining. Just say hi and let people know that you're there.
That's a showstopper, right?
Yes, yes.
We've
That is
talked to
so
packs
cool.
that have even gone to the effort of dragging that Pinewood Derby track out and setting it up
Yep.
someplace, whether it's a community space, maybe it's the library, if there's even malls anymore, those kinds, but someplace where
Yeah.
where you can safely set up and wow, stand back because people love Pinewood Derby. And
Just a few weeks ago, Gina and I went to a Pinewood Derby here in my area that our friend Rob happened to be at, and they did it in the middle of one of the busiest malls in North Texas, I think. And they had it was a Pinewood Derby, so the kids are having a blast, and there's people walking by going, what's going on here? I mean, how brilliant is that? So I love all that stuff like that. Michael, before we let you go, one last question. You kind of touched on this earlier. People still appreciate scouting. People know that it develops character and leadership skills and all those things like that. As we market our pack to our community, we're going to be reaching out to a lot of folks who, their dads are not Eagle Scouts, right? Their husbands, maybe there's these moms whose husbands were not in scouting. Just real quick, what's our elevator pitch? Why do families join scouting these days, Michael?
Look, it's really interesting. If you look at what happened to families, and we see this in the research, unfortunately, the pandemic sent people home, and many times kids sat on the couch, and a lot of them are still there. And what we heard from parents is that scouting offers social without the media. It's search without search engines. It gets them off the couch, back into the outdoors. We heard it from the Surgeon General last week. There's a mental health crisis in the country. And part of the solution, we believe, is to get kids outside, get them into a program that offers character and leadership and fun and adventure and family connections and teaches them how to actually talk to people face to face. Listen, scouting is the program that does all of those things. I think we should get families off the couch and back into the outdoors and back into our Cub Scout packs and our scout troops and our posts and our crews. Scouting is the way to do that. I think we are social without the media, but it's fun and adventure, and I think we got to get back out there.
That's great. Yeah. Well, we started the show mentioning the national annual meeting from a month or so ago, and I'll close it with talking about that again. Our boss, Michael, at that event, Roger Crone, said that this country needs scouting now more than ever. He's right. I mean, we can provide exactly what ails people, not just being courteous and kind, but outdoor adventure, getting off screens, all that stuff. You're looking for an answer, or you're looking for a place to do all that. Scouting is the answer. Michael, it's always a pleasure chatting with you. You and I basically do this every time we see each other in the building.
I know, right?
It's fun to do it on the internet in front of other people. So thanks for joining us today. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for the invitation. Hey, everybody have a great, safe summer. Stay cool out there, and let's get some more kids involved in scouting.
Agreed. Thank you all for watching. A lot of great folks in the comments. Appreciate that. Quick reminder, you can go back and watch this live anytime. You can also download it as a podcast. Cub Chat Live is a podcast now. You can do that and listen to it in your car on the way to work or on your walk or your jog, whatever. Christine says, great chat. Thank you. I agree, Christine. Thank you for watching. Everybody enjoy your weekend. We'll see you next week. Bye,
everybody. Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in today. Be sure to catch next week's episode. Same time, same place. And let us know how we're doing at go.scoutingmagazine.org/ratecubchat. We love feedback and ideas for new episodes. And you can visit blog.scoutingmagazine.org/cubchatlive for all our past video episodes. You can see us live. Except it's recorded, but it was live. Okay, see you next week.